Had this thing for a couple months now, was really excited about it when it came out, been testing it out. It definitely came in handy last week in the middle of the AT&T cell phone outage that seemed to strike huge portions of the country. Today we're going to talk about the Motorola Defy Satellite Link. For several years now, I've been using this Spot Gen 4. I bought it predominantly just so my wife could see where I was on the trails, and then also the peace of mind of knowing that if I did get in trouble, I could just push a button and call for help. And it has been absolutely wonderful for that purpose, but there were a few things I didn't like about it. I wasn't a big fan of the fact that it was just one-way traffic, one-way communication. I could send her messages, but she couldn't send me anything back. And I know there are other solutions out there that will do that and will allow that, but they were pretty pricey. And so I'd kind of strayed away from it, and it was just, this is sort of the lesser of the evil. I'm kind of cheap. I didn't want to spend a fortune on some of these. But then about a year ago, I started seeing articles about this little jewel, and it looked like the price point was going to be something that was going to be palatable for me. So I've got on a waiting list and waited on this thing to come in, and I've been trying it out now for a couple of months. And this is the Motorola Defy. This is their satellite link, so it Bluetooths over to your phone, and it does give you the two-way communication back and forth that I was looking for. So let's talk about it today. Just kind of look at the specs here. Comes just like this. Just has a little loop up here, which I went through and just clipped a night eyes container onto, and I hooked this to my bag. It's a relatively simple device. You've got this little cover down here, which is easy to think this is just a third button. It's actually not. It's the dust cover for the USB-C charger. So you just plug that thing in there, and then you're left with a button over here, a button here, and then you've got the main SOS button back here, and then you've got some indicator lights down the side. So these indicator lights, this is your power up here, and when you boot this thing up, this is a little bit different in that when you boot it up, and this was kind of unexpected to me. So when I first turn this on, I have to go through and then open my phone and physically click it for make the Bluetooth connection between the two. It doesn't automatically connect to that, but then once it's connected, it does stay and hold that connection pretty much until you turn it back off. We got our power button up here, power indicator. The second button, this is more like a check-in button. So inside the app, and I'll show you that in just a few minutes, you can set your check-in notification message and your contacts, and then so this button is actually going to do that. Again, this is the dust cover. So you've got a connection button down here that lets you know if it's connected to the satellite, and then this is letting you know if the signal's going out and if it's connected. And you get a flashing light when it's Bluetoothed over as well. No other buttons on here. It's a relatively simple device. So the battery in here, it's a 600 milliamp battery. No real way to change it that I know of, at least, which these things are pretty darn new, so I don't know if anyone's even tried to yet. Like I said, that's your USB-C connector. They do say that the battery on this will run for about 4 days. I know I have been out and used it for multiple days. I can think of at least once that I had it on for about 3 days and had no issues with it. So I can't speak to the 4 days, but it definitely lasted for 3. All in all, it's relatively small. It's super thin and significantly lighter than this device is. It's a much smaller footprint. You just have your little connecting strap here, which seems pretty darn durable. There's some braille back here if you are vision impaired. And then also, so while you're using this, when you go into the app, and I'll pull my phone up here in just a minute and we'll kind of roll through it. When you go into the app, you set up your main contact, and it's pretty much just like texting back and forth. So last week when we had the big AT&T outage that impacted thousands of users, and my family was definitely one, so we had our phones, and if you were connected to Wi-Fi, you could text, but not anything on the cell network. Well, I was out in the woods teaching a class, and once everything went out, I immediately picked this up, Bluetoothed over to it, and I was able to stay in contact with my family without issue whatsoever. So we really didn't miss a beat because I had this on me. So while this device is marketed and sold by Motorola, it's actually made by a company called Bullet out of the UK, if I'm not mistaken. Now, their service and their insurance and their monitoring, those are all by a third-party vendor that's outside of the network. One thing that does worry me about these devices, only a couple of weeks ago, I did see in the news where Bullet had filed their version of bankruptcy, and it's unclear as to whether or not someone is actually going to pick up and keep manufacturing these things. They did say that for the foreseeable future, there's no intended delay and decline in the monitoring for them and any of that fun stuff, nothing to worry about there. And I do know that these are continuing to be sold by Motorola. I think they're just looking for someone to actually pick up the production. So in accessing the app, it's actually an app that says Bullet. It actually doesn't say Motorola or Defy, because Bullet's the company that made it. So when you come into here and pop in, it's a relatively basic window. Down at the bottom, you've got an SOS button, so I can do an SOS from here in the app, or I can do it from here on the device. I can do straight messaging. I've got the check-in, or I can use the check-in button here. And then I've got a tracking button down here. Now this is probably the biggest negative for this. The tracking services aren't turned on yet. They were initially saying this is probably going to come on in 2024. Kind of toward the end of the year, so still remains to be seen if they turn that on or not. I certainly hope they turn this on, because at this point, that's my biggest negative on this product. So up at the very top, you can come into here. This is where you set up your profile, you manage your subscriptions in here, some settings. The settings is sort of where you set all the connection information for who your check-ins go to and all that fun stuff. There's this tracking hub. When you go into the tracking hub, it really just tells you that your subscription plan doesn't have tracking. That's because they haven't turned it on yet. And then help and sign out. It's all really pretty darn basic to set up. And then when you're connected to the network, you have a lot of little icons up here at the top. You can click in here and it's going to open it up. It's going to tell you up on the top of the device, you know, is my phone connected to it? Is it connected to the satellite? So it shows everything in this little window that is and is not connected to the entire network. So when you want to send a new message, you click this little plus icon down at the bottom. It'll pull up a window in here that says existing contact or new contact, and you literally just walk through the prompts and set up your new person. Inside the app, you kind of just text like you would a normal conversation. It's pretty simple. It follows through, and so far for me, this is sent pretty quickly. Like, I've not really had to wait an extended amount of time for it to send anything. Now, when you click onto the plans inside the app, it actually takes you to the Bullet website for you to manage all those, which seems a little hokey, but that's where they manage all that. Now, in terms of the plans, they've got a handful of different options. And right out the gate, your first plan, at least on some of the basic stuff, is free for the first 12 months. So they have an Essentials plan that'll give you 30 messages for basically nothing right now, but you can pick that up after the first 12 months. It's basically $5 per month. And when you move up from there, they have an everyday plan that's going to give you 80 messages per month. And these don't roll over. They expire at the end of the month. And then, so right now you can get that for $5 a month, or at the end of 12 months, it's $10 a month. They then also have a premium plan that is 300 messages per month. And it is over a 12-month period, you're paying $25 a month. And then after that, it's $29 a month. And then you have a freedom plan as well. That's up to 250 messages per year on and off contract, and it's basically just $60 per year. So you can do $60 and you get 250 messages for the entirety of the year. And that's actually the plan that I'm on at this point. Satellite coverage on this right now covers the entirety of the continental US and also the vast majority of Canada. There's a couple little areas that it doesn't. And then queued up for later in 2024, it picks up Alaska, the rest of Central America, and all of South America as well. It also currently covers Western Europe, and it's also queued up to, in 2024, pick up Africa and Australia and a handful of other areas out that general vicinity. So all that should come online in 2024. Don't see anything around Asia at this point on the foreseeable future, but currently this device is selling for right at about $150 US. I'll throw a link in the description down below. I was able to pick this up around the holidays. I think I paid about $125 for it. So it does go on sale from time to time, but that's about the cheapest I've seen it so far. And also the total weight of the device comes in right at 70 grams, so it's pretty darn light. They publish it as waterproof up to 5-foot submersion for a half an hour. Not tested that out. It's definitely gotten rained on with me enough. Okay, hopefully you found that beneficial if you're in the market for something like this or been looking at these specifically. Hopefully this helped you out. Like I said, I've only had it for a few months. It definitely came in massively handy last week. This is the first time I truly needed it. I've not been having to wait long for messages to send. Like they just kind of cruise through and keep sending like you would hope that they would send. Not had any issues with it from a performance perspective. I do like that the battery is pretty long lasting, and I like that I can just charge it right off of my battery pack while I'm out on the trail. And as always, speaking of the trail, if you're out there right now watching this video, just remember, left foot, right foot, repeat. We'll see you out there soon. Maybe carry one.